You're very welcome back to the Rossie Podcast in association with Shannonside FM. This week we've travelled to Dublin to chat to former Roscommon footballer Donie Smith about his decision to retire from the inter-county scene, reflecting on over a decade playing with Roscommon and the future with his club Boyle. Remember, this podcast is sponsored by Sean White Renault Athlone. Explore Renault's electric lineup, including the award-winning Renault 5 E-Tech, plus the Scenic and Megane E-Tech models. See seanwhitecarsales.ie or call 090 6492 887. Okay, you're welcome back to the Rossie Podcast. I'm joined this week by now former Roscommon forward Donie Smith and current Boyle forward at that. Look, we may as well start with that, Donie. I said former Roscommon footballer. You came to the decision a few months ago. Tough one, was it?
Yeah, of course it was a tough one. I think, though, probably when the final whistle went in Portlaoise, I think I knew. I just had it in my head. Obviously, I'm living up here now in Dublin, young family and all those type of things kind of came into it as well. I've been on the road since 2012 without taking a year off. So, yeah, look, tough decision, but I'm quite happy with the decision. I think it's the right decision I made, and I think I'm ready for something else.
Yeah. Did you have in your head at the start of the year? I know you can't have that nearly, oh, this is my last year, but did you think going back that this could be it?
Not necessarily at the start of the year, but as the year went on, I got a bit of an injury during the year, which set me back 6 or 7 weeks. And then I kind of struggled for form, and then I've kind of, all the thoughts go around your head. And then I suppose the team weren't playing well either, so you're kind of half thinking maybe, look, I think it's time to call it up. But then I knew probably going into the summer and going into the last couple of group games that I think, I just knew. And even then, obviously, when the game was over, I tried to stay on the pitch for as long as I could afterwards, just kind of to keep the jersey on me. But yeah, I knew then. But I didn't have it like in last January. I hadn't thought in my head, this is it. I just, took the year as it came.
Yeah, and look, it was probably a tricky one to finish up on, a disappointing loss to Cork. I think you came off maybe 10 or 15 minutes before the end. You're mentioning there staying on the pitch and maybe just, reminiscing, is it, or, just taking it all in, saying that, this is probably it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is really. It's just, I think it's probably the fact that I won't be wearing the senior jersey again. So you're probably, everything that you're doing that day, when the whistle goes, is your last time doing it. It was the same when you went into the dressing room. It's the last time you're going to be sitting with those fellas in the dressing room. You're going to be, in their company for the last couple of hours, and then you all go your separate ways. But yeah, disappointing. I think, it's been well documented the last, I suppose, 8 weeks of the season. We just didn't catch fire at all, the opposite. And, still disappointing, and it will be disappointing for a long time.
Yeah, because look, maybe you don't even have the answers. Or you were in the camp, you were on the pitch. I don't know what kind of happened. Like I was talking to Diarmuid a few months ago as well, and started well, even though he felt that he probably still didn't even play great in the first few games against Down, Louth and Monaghan, even though you won the games. I think Monaghan probably was your best performance. After that, then the loss against Meath, obviously. Then going to Cork, he beat them by hammer Cork down in Cork. But from then on, it just felt like he just got in a complete rut.
Exactly. And the worst part was we knew we were in a rut, and we still couldn't get to the point where we could get out of the rut. And it just felt like every small negative thing that happened in the game was like another dagger. And it was then moving on to the league final. We were in good form. In any league final we've played in, I think we've won every league final we've been in. So obviously we were confident we had a decent enough first half. Then we sort of fell away. I think Beggan kicked a lovely few frees. And then obviously you're going across the Salt Hill, and if you lose to Galway, it's no big deal. Galway were one of the All-Ireland contenders, but I suppose it was the manner. And I think whatever about the scoreboard, I think everybody in the ground knew the game was over with about 20, 25 minutes left. And then you're on the pitch and the game is on and there's nobody really paying attention to it. In your head, I think it's the worst place to be. Yeah. Worst place to be. There's 20 minutes left, the game is over, and it's one of those demoralising ones.
Yeah, and how is it then to pick it up? Because you'll hear from the outside, whether I know people say you like to block it out and we're all one, but you hear from the outside from different people how you're performing. A lot of negativity, unfortunately, this year.
Yeah.
Is that difficult then to maintain that kind of united front in a camp when things aren't going well?
Yeah, I think I'll just touch on the negativity thing. I think the negativity thing was more so towards the management, which I think was completely unfair. I think, as players, like at the end of the day, we're going on the pitch. That's the reality of it. And, it was very easy to scapegoat, say, someone like Davy, because number one, Davy's not from Roscommon, so it's easier to do that. But I think realistically, like, we've all, and I'm including myself in this, like, we've been there for years. Like, maybe, sometimes if you're doing the same things over and over again, and you're expecting different results, yourself, that definition. So look, there was plenty of negativity, but I think as a group of players and a group of people, we weren't mature enough to deal with the negativity. We weren't mature enough to deal with our slip in form. And I think if there was any negativity that was creeping in, I think certain players were probably happy to let it creep in to create some probably a bit of toxicity.
Yeah, because like when you're hearing that and negativity, and it's completely fair, because the loss of pressure on the management, and whether again that comes down to an outside manager is easier to turn on, than an in-house one, remains to be seen. But it's trying to maybe keep the united front, but maybe not everyone. I suppose like there's a group of whatever 30, 35 lads.
100%.
You might have 20 that are in the united front, but it's getting those 10 or 15 then to come with you.
Yeah, exactly. I think and this doesn't happen just in, say, a team that are on the slide. I'm sure there was probably players on the Drive for Five team that probably weren't happy with them, and whatever like that. It happens in every team. But I suppose when you're losing and things aren't going well, things can get in, and it can spread through the team. Unfortunately, it probably did with us in a certain way. But look, I think when we reflect back on 2025, it'll be the results we didn't get and the performances we just didn't get near. I think you mentioned it yourself. The Monaghan performance was in the league itself was good. We got away with playing Louth when Louth were probably at a bit of a dip, and Down were probably finding themselves. So yeah, as a whole, disappointing, when especially there were so many opportunities as well.
Absolutely, because you look at even the group, like, okay, Kerry actually, even though you lose by 10, I don't think it was an awful performance. I think, they got a few goals in the second half, maybe to make it look at, that you were hammered by 10, 9 or 10. I spoke to Jeremy, and I'm referring back to it, the Meath game. It felt like, if you win that game, you could still lose to Cork, of course, but it may just put a different slant in that Cork game.
100%.
Meath at the height, I think you're a point up with 10 minutes to go, and you just don't score again.
Yeah, exactly.
So small margins still can change a season. Like, 24, for instance, probably lots of negativity in 24, the win against Tyrone, then suddenly it's viewed as a good year. Then.
Exactly, yeah. I think just go back to the Meath game, like we were very good in that Meath game. Meath have had huge performances now. Obviously, they were probably disappointed with the Leinster final, but they beat Dublin, they beat Kerry, Galway as well. So yeah, and I watched it back. I actually thought we were the better team. We couldn't convert just one. All we needed probably one or two more scores, and we probably would have won the game. But yeah, it's the fine margins, and the same with the Cork game. Just a couple of opportunities we missed. I think we might have had a goal chance as well, and then it seemed like in the first half anyway, when we were doing well, every attack they had, they just ended up putting the ball over the bar, and it was just a killer, an absolute killer. And again, look, if we'd won either of those games, we would have been through, and you don't know what would have happened in terms of the draw. And again, if you get to a quarter final, it's seen as seen as a respectable year. So that's probably a good way of looking at it as well, because it is fine margin, especially at that level.
Yeah, and you see Meath, and you mentioned there they beat Kerry, they beat Dublin, they beat Galway in a quarter final. Okay, they were well beaten in the semi final, but they can look back on the year with a lot of satisfaction winning those games. Is that maybe a disappointing thing? Maybe looking back over the years, the likes of that Meath game, a couple against Cork, maybe a couple against Clare, Kildare, tight games that you just didn't get over the line. And
yeah, and probably the worst part of that, Darragh, is that they're all teams we'd see that we're on the same level as us, or in our head we think we should be beating them, and it's them games that they're the opportunities lost, especially at 16, where Clare turned us over in Salt Hill 22. Clare got a last minute winner, and then Cork, I suppose, in 2023, Davy's first year as well. All games that you would have said going into it, right, we've a great chance here now to push on. So yeah, look, they're the ones that are disappointing. Look, we've played Dublin, we've played Mayo, we've played Galway, all the super teams, and we have lost them. And sometimes teams are just better, and you have to accept that. But it's the games and the teams that you think that you're on their level and even slightly above, they're the losses that are the toughest, and they'll always be that way.
Yeah, because the mental side of it after a game. Maybe I think the Clare one in Croke Park, maybe 20, no, was that 22?
Yeah.
Was that one of even the hardest? Because you were 5 or 6 up, Clare come back, and like again, you're in the ground. You probably see people like leaving, and everyone's just frustrated. There's a dressing room of players that are walking down there. I can imagine it's a tough place to be in when you lose a game like that.
Oh, 100%. I think my abiding memory from that day was we were in the dressing room and it was just shock. I don't think anybody spoke. Like, I don't think anybody could. I think like we were cruising, absolutely cruising. We started slow enough, but we picked it up in the second half. We got ahead, as you said, and all of a sudden, sucker punches, and then they get yourself momentum. They get all the momentum. They get the win, and it's all of a sudden it's start of June nearly, and the season's over, and you don't know where to look. But it's very difficult. It can be very difficult, and I suppose it's very difficult for, I think that might have been Anthony's last game. The likes of him now, it would have been very difficult for him. He'd put a lot into it. It was his 4th year and he's finishing on that, so that can be really difficult for them as well. We were lucky enough that a lot of us were able to play the following year. That was Anthony's, final act as our manager, I suppose, which is disappointing for him.
Yeah, and it kind of goes to show rarely anyone gets to finish on a high, unfortunately,
100%.
Especially unfortunately when you're with Roscommon. Usually it can be on the back of a lower defeat. Look, just going back to the start in the Roscommon career, obviously you would have played in development panels and all that. Might just even start with the likes of the minor campaigns. Like I've chatted to a good few of the lads that were involved there. I still to this day would like to see minor games restored to bigger days, because geez, it felt like maybe on the back of 06 and kind of going out there, but like 2011 you were playing before in Croke Park before Connacht finals, like they were actually a big deal back then. Now I'm not saying they're not now, but it felt like even a bigger deal.
Oh, they were huge. They were absolutely, like, we played the day in the Hyde. I think the weather wasn't great, and by the time the finalists went, the Hyde was packed.
Yeah.
We played in Croke Park before the famous Donegal Kildare game, I think, when Donegal got the last minute winner. Like, they were huge days. And then we played in front of Mayo and Kerry in the semi-final. You're running onto Croke Park, but as well as running onto Croke Park and the Hyde, you're running on pitches that are full, and there's big interest and there's a buzz. Like, obviously as a 17, 18 year old, you mightn't ever feel that again. So yeah, I would be 100% in agreement with you. Like, them games need to be put back on All-Ireland final days, provincial final days, because they're really special days. I'm still very tight with a lot of the minors that I wouldn't have played with in the senior team because of those sort of days and because of all the I suppose the adventures we went through together.
And the exposure, to be exposed, like, that you're on about 2011 there, like even 2 years later, 2013, they were in a semi-final before the Dublin Kerry, that famous one. Yeah. Like, to be a part of those days, you see, the hill filling up, the Croke Park and that. Again, I don't understand. You're seeing the under-17 championships, under-20s being shuffled in on a Wednesday night and a Friday night, round robin, and ask a whole pile of interest until it gets to the semi-final and the final.
Exactly.
It could, I know it's good intention to give lads games and all that, but it could be done a bit better.
100%. And we're not great with exposure in the GA. So if you're not involved with a minor team or even an under-20 team, you don't know what's going on. So that's probably the biggest thing. Whereas if you knew the minors or 20s were playing before the senior game, you might go in that bit early. Whereas again, like you said, if you're playing the Wednesday night and you could be playing down in Beacon or you could be over in Tuam, like, it's not ideal. Yeah. Not ideal to get to. And I'd be all for trying to get it back the way it was.
Yeah, and like going into the senior panel then, like, you were quite young. Was it 18, 19 would have been?
Yeah, well, I would have been 18, been called in. It was straight after a minor came in, and then straight in. Yes, to be honest with you, looking back, in a way I wasn't ready to be called in, but of course if you're called into a senior panel, you're not going to say no. So I wish I had maybe taken a year, 18 months just to develop myself, obviously physically, but just to grow up a small bit as well. I probably was a bit naive going in, thinking, this will be all grand, but it's nothing. It's a completely different sport, playing senior county football than even playing any other type of Gaelic football. It was really a steep learning curve for me for the first couple of years. So yeah, it's probably one thing that I look back on and think maybe if I just relaxed myself and focused on myself, developing myself as a player, both physically, mentally, and as a person as well. But look, it's not a huge regret. It's just one thing I'd often think about.
Yeah, because you don't really see it nowadays. Like, I know you get a David Clifford and who goes straight in. Maybe I think Finbar Rorty with Donegal went straight in this year, but rarely you would see 18. Like, even it feels like nowadays the jump from under 20 to senior is very big. Whereas when you were playing, and Jermid, all these Ronan Daly's and all these were brought in probably 18, 19, 20 very early. A different culture, even though it was only 12 or 13 years ago. Like,
Yeah, exactly. As well, at the time, I think the senior team were probably going through a period of transition where, there was probably a big, like, in fairness to John Evans, he was very good for that. He was big into having young fellas on board. So I think that was just, he was trying to get everyone in as quick as he could. Like, if you look at our under-21 team that got to the final in 2012, I think 19 lads played senior football at some stage or made an appearance for the senior team. So yeah, it was literally all in. And obviously we're a small county, we're up against it. You need everybody. It's not a case where you can do a Kerry or Dublin on it where you can just, develop yourself for 2 or 3 years and then come in when you're ready. With the smaller counties, with the smaller picks, with cyclical teams as well.
Yeah.
If you're ready, off you go.
Yeah, and you touched on under 21s there. Like, you're in the senior panel, but obviously you're still 2014, even the under 21 final against Dublin, and I always refer to it when you look, and I think I have the programme at home somewhere, you actually see the Dublin team and the names. You don't know it at the time, but the amount of All-Irelands and All-Stars and Players of the Year, like, I think even Fenton hadn't even played minor. He was only coming into the under 21s and seeing the career. That was something else.
Yeah, and Kilkenny was actually injured for that year as well. Yeah, it's not easy losing another final, but there's a small bit of, it makes it that bit easier when you look back. I actually look back, and I think it was maybe during COVID, I looked back at the programme or something like that, and it makes it a small bit easier. But yeah, like all them Dublin under 21 players that day, I don't know if any of them, maybe apart from maybe Jack McCaffrey and Paul Manning, they're the only two maybe that were actually established seniors, whereas on our team I think 10 of us were playing with the seniors at the time. So that just goes to show in terms of obviously the deeper panels the bigger teams have, and obviously needs must and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, and obviously John gave you your debut. John was there for a few years, and again, I've mentioned in many interviews, he's probably not looked back on too fondly. I think maybe a bit harsh, but maybe the appreciation, because again, he gave a lot of that team, our players that have been there for 10 years, their debuts.
Yeah, true. Well, it was actually Des who gave me my debut, and then John give me my start and all that type of thing. I suppose the thing with John's biggest Achilles heel was that we didn't perform in championship. I think in 2015 we had a favourable enough run to a kind of final. We slipped up in Markovich Park, and then we were in Enniskillen in Fermanagh against Fermanagh, cruising again, and then we let it slip. I think maybe they might have scored a sideline to level it, and then they just got momentum. So that was probably the biggest thing. Now, in fairness, we went from Division 3 to Division 1 with John. We were always in fine fettle come league, but just we couldn't translate that to championship, and that was the biggest thing. That will probably be what he would be remembered for, because there was definitely that year in 2015 there was opportunity there, because obviously we avoided Galway and Mayo in the Connacht draw. So and that's probably fair enough. If you're avoiding Galway and Mayo without being disrespectful to Sligo or Leitrim or New York or London, we should be getting to a Connacht final, and just it didn't materialise that year.
Yeah, and going like from 15 to 16, always Fergal and Kevin McStay come in. Was there like a shift in mentality then from going like, okay, we're a Division 1 team now, this is where the level we need to get to now, Not, I think Shawnee McDermott said that he got off the phone to Fergal and he was on about All-Irelands, and Shawnee couldn't wait to get to training, and he was nearly, fired up completely after this phone call. He was ready to go. But maybe just the setup, the names you had, Fergal, obviously massive name, Roscommon, Kevin McStay was obviously Bridges manager, he's prominent on the television. It felt like maybe that was the next step to go to then.
Yeah, I think 2016 was probably the one year as well, and this is kind of important, especially for the likes of Roscommon. It was the one year we'd everybody. We didn't have lads taking a year off, we didn't have lads going abroad or doing anything like that. We had everybody, and I kind of felt that, we were all in together. I think pre-season, I was actually injured for a lot of that year, but pre-season I remember it was abnormal, the stuff we were doing. It was unbelievable, and it showed. Like you see in Division 1, we were, I think we got, back then it was semi-finals we played against, we had Kerry in the semi-final, so we were in great shape, so that probably got us over the line in most games. And then it's the $1 million question, like, how does what you're doing a month previous changed the course of the games we played later on then, with just how we completely fell off in terms of, you have the New York game, you have then we got over Leitrim, we struggled over Sligo, and then while we could have won the kind of final the first day out against Galway, we didn't, and then obviously the Clare game was probably wrote a lot of obituaries that day as well. But yeah, them coming in, it was unbelievable. Everyone couldn't wait to get back, and yeah, it was really, really intense, but something probably what we needed, because we had never seen that before, you know.
Yeah, and like people during the league were on about, you know, fitness levels and peaking at the right time. But does that come into it? Like if you're flying fit in say March, come May or June, then does your fitness drop? Do you feel more tired? I don't know from, you know, an elite level in terms of knowing when to peak and all that. But does your fitness levels drop, or does everyone else just come up to them maybe?
10 years ago, I would have said there's definitely peaks and troughs, but now everybody is super fit from the 1st of February. So I maybe it was a case of maybe teams coming up to our level of fitness. I don't think there was any team were as fit as us during the league in 2016. I think it was pretty evident. I think now, because everybody is so fit, it's probably one of those things where you're trying to just keep your form and keep, you know, if you're in good form, you're trying to keep it, and if you're in a bit of a rut, you're trying to find that bit of form. So it is a fine balancing act. Like with 2016 as an example, like we finished the league, we were in good shape. I think it was only 3 to 4 weeks later to the New York game, which was actually quite short, because the following year, 2017, we finished the league. I think we did 10 weeks.
I know, yeah.
So, and then we were relegated in 2017, and we ended up winning the kind of final. So who's doing the right thing, who's doing the wrong thing? Nobody knows, you know.
Yeah.
Like I think with Dublin, all they wanted to do was win the league and win the All-Ireland. Like it was win everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Maybe again, I'm going back to this. Maybe we have a smaller panel. Maybe we just don't have the capacity to go hard in the league and then try and peak in the championship. Maybe we've just tapered off a small bit.
Just a reminder, this episode is brought to you by Sean White Renault Athlone. Renault's electric lineup is redefining the road, from the spacious scenic E-Tech to the dynamic Megane E-Tech to the brilliant new Renault 5 E-Tech, winner of Irish Car of the Year 2026. For unbeatable offers on new and used cars, check out SeanWhiteCarsales.ie or call 090 6492 887. Sean White Renault Athlone.
Yeah, and like that year after you mentioned New York, I know it's topical this or next year, when Roscommon will be going out there. Like that game is kind of remembered for the wrong reasons. Even though you won, like you get out there by a point that nobody saw coming. Like you know, after the league, like it was just probably common practice back then. You go to New York, you have the few days, everyone enjoys it. The game is a bit secondary, tick a box and that's it. But like, my God, I mean, I don't know where you want.
No, I was injured as well. Yeah, but I was there, unfortunately.
Like I can imagine watching on and seeing going into injury time. I think was a Seddon got the winner or something like that. But like I say, it was frightening stuff for you as a panel.
Yeah, I think I just remember, I think Senan got an unbelievable point from the sideline.
Yeah.
And at the time, I think it put us 2 or 3 up, and we thought, okay, we're fine here. But that actually turned out to be the winner, because I think they got a chance. And I think they were 1-on-1 with Jeff. Yeah. They blazed over the bar.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like, you'd never think it would happen. And then with a minute or 2 to go, we think, okay, we are in serious trouble. Like if that game went on for 3 or 4 more minutes, that could have been curtains. And yeah, I think a lot of them might be still out in New York if we didn't get the win there.
Well, yeah, because it would have been uncharted. What was really? I mean, I know Fergal, I think, as I was saying to you off air, I think when went on with Willie straight away after the game, maybe emotions were running high, so it would have been uncharted territory. But like, did that set you back at all? The shock of that, say, oh, maybe are we as good as we thought we were?
Yeah, I had to absolutely, because it was a championship game. You know, inter-county players are built for the championship, but that's what we should be built for. Championship game, and we were so substandard, it wasn't right. And so yeah, that definitely had an effect. And then obviously we get back to training, and we, it's clean slate and all that type of thing. But of course there's going to be some trauma from that performance. Of course there is, and it showed in the following weeks. Like we got over Leitrim, as I said, we struggled over Sligo, and I think the kind of final the first day was just 2 teams that were really, really nervous, because Mayo had been so dominant for the previous 4 or 5 years, and there was just 2 teams who probably didn't know how to win it and were afraid of their life of losing it. And I think it was like 10 points to 110 to 13 points. It was very low scoring anyway.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and like going to the Clare game and the 6-day turnaround, and people say, how do you recover? It felt from some people were saying like you were a beaten team going against Clare. Now, I don't know what the mindset is on the bus, and I think I asked Shawnee as well, about that game. Like, what's the mood like going to Clare? Like, I don't know. Like, again, I never say any county player, this downing tools or whatever, but I don't know. Like, a lot of people, I couldn't believe a lot of people said, Roscommon are beaten anyways, but Roscommon still probably should be beating Clare.
100%.
6 days late, whether it's a 6-day turnaround or not.
Like, when we got the draw and we heard it was Clare, first thing you're thinking is opportunity.
Yeah.
Because I think there was a lot tougher draws out there on paper.
Yeah.
And I think it was all to do with our start. I think we had a terrible start, and I think there was a couple of their key guys. I remember Gary Brennan down the stand side. He made an unbelievable run, and just through the team, it's like, okay, right, we're a bit vulnerable here.
Yeah.
And I even think from the throw-in, I don't know if I've it right, but their wing back, he got a goal chance and he literally ran through our whole defence. So straight away, there's probably warning signs. And obviously before the game, you don't think that's going to happen. You think obviously you're going to win the game, but that opens up the wounds again. Those type of things, them small things that happen in games. It's unbelievable how momentum works and how the mind works, because once them things happened, you could just feel around the stadium, okay, this is going to be too tight now for us here,
Yeah, so okay, that year finishes probably on a downer. Fergal and Kevin part ways. Kevin decides to stay on. But again, I suppose the sense from, again, the outside, from seeing it, there was some players that stepped away. The league is obviously not going well, mid-league. Gay Sheeran went on a bit of a famous rant on Shannonside. It can't be good for morale, when it feels like, again, we were on about Davy and the management earlier, probably was more aimed at Kevin and the management, really, than yourself. They were taking the brunt of a lot of this negativity. So how was it like, to keep that, again, that bit of a spirit of?
That was tough. I remember a couple of games during the league. We played Dublin in Croke Park, and I think they won to beat us. They had to win. It was 60 games in a row. They won something like that, and we had a tough conversation, I think, in one of the spots where we have a bit of grub. I think it was just the team. Kevin was there. And after the Kerry League game as well, we actually went down to Roscommon to the gym where the old county board used to be. There was a couple of tough conversations there. In terms of negativity, I can only speak for myself. I didn't really feel that much in terms for the players. You're right about the management thing, and like Kevin and Liam's mistake, it's not even a mistake, is that they weren't born from Roscommon. So if that's what people are probably looking at, well then look, people can take from that what they want. As far as I'm concerned, Kevin was there for the right reasons. Absolutely, Liam was the same. So none of the players any issue with that. But yeah, you're right. It was a downer, and as I just aforementioned, the 10-12 week break was brilliant.
No.
Because it let us reset. I think we went back to our club. I think we played 2 April Club Championship games. It was nice. We knew we were getting ready for a semi-final against Leitrim, and obviously you're thinking, right, that's an opportunity in itself. And we went away and we plotted and schemed for that, and then it kind of just went from there. I think when you go on to the final, I don't think anybody gives a prayer, because Galway were obviously defending champions. They were going well in the league. They were Division 1. They beaten Mayo again, and everything seemed rosy for them. And then we just got a good start, and then that word again, momentum. We had the momentum the whole game, and they couldn't get it back off us.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny how things are looked on. Like that 2017 season is looked on unbelievably favourably, because we won a Connacht title. I think we won 2 games in 10, whereas in 2016 we might have only lost 3 or 4 games. But
absolutely,
isn't it unbelievable how it works like that? But I suppose there's a narrative there for a reason.
Well, and it kind of just goes to show you're judged on championship.
100%.
You could have the best league. I think even Derry won a Division 1 title a few years ago under Mickey Hart. Terrible championship, it's remembered, and it's almost like the Division 1 is an afterthought.
Exactly, he was out the door then.
Yeah, exactly. And just touching on the 2017 campaign, I know kind of Galway and Mayo, I don't know before that, but you were kind of playing like an impact role. So obviously you want to be on the field. How would you get yourself ready? Saying right, I don't know. Was Kevin telling you were getting 20 minutes? Was
so
it like
I'd known a couple of weeks before the conference, so I played the Leitrim game, and I actually stupidly, all my fault, I actually got a black card, so I didn't do myself any favours. And I had a chat with Kevin. We were on a camp in Johnstown House, and he had mentioned potential, and obviously, you know, you're trying to look after yourself, so obviously I was disappointed, but you know, I knew there was a job to be done, so I was happy enough, you know, as you could be. I didn't. It wasn't going to be a case where I'd be a negative impact around the place. So I kind of knew a couple of weeks out that I can kind of process it, which was fine as long as we were still in the game. You know, I had no problem with that, and I was lucky enough with the final that I was able to come on do okay. Same with the first day against Mayo, came on, did fine. And then obviously the replay was one where I came on, but I think the game might have been over after 14 minutes. So that's kind of more difficult, you know.
Yeah. I mean, like the Galway game, it was kind of felt like, especially the second half, everything was just going to plan. I know you got a great one from the sideline. I think Conor Devaney got a couple of corners, all on that kind of
Down the side,
it was kind of like champagne stuff, really. And I suppose you can as I was never champagne, drink it all in, and the AIB documentaries there to go with it. I know you ended it a bit on Keane. I've interviewed Keane earlier in the year. He said he didn't even tell you you were doing the documentary at the time.
Which was annoying because he wants to know everything we're doing. So he wasn't too happy when he heard about it. So he hadn't been forewarned.
But again, it's very nice for you to look back on that, because a nice moment actually the cameraman captured Enda and Keane on the pitch. You know, just nice things to be able to look back on.
Absolutely, I think. Again, during COVID, I think we might have whipped it out during COVID and looked at it for the crack. But it was great memories. And even like the two lads that did the videoing with us or did the recording, like they were only lads the same age as ourselves. Like they were, I think they ended up getting Roscommon gear as well. They were like part of the panel. I know there was a camera there the whole time, but it didn't even feel like that. So we were very relaxed around them, and I'd say they had some footage that you couldn't put near a screen. So it was great. And obviously, I suppose that fairy tale of, because we won, it makes the documentary a lot better, you know. Yeah,
well, it shows the highs and the lows, and it probably obviously we would have liked the Mayo replay to go better, but it does kind of contrast, you know, the high of winning the Connacht title to then the low of the Mayo game. Like the first day was obviously, you know, going to plan after 10 minutes. I know you were on the bench at the time, 7 points up. Unfortunately, I think Lee Keegan had other ideas in the first half, and he kind of dragged Mayo, you know, through that bit of the spell. You come on again for that impact, you know, period between, you know, for 20 minutes or so. I think you got a nice point. The end gave a ball in. The free at the end, you know, this is probably it to level it. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the free where you took it, it's probably would be outside the 2-point hour. Or in it around it, I'd say. Now, pretty much.
Yeah, I'd be thereabouts. I'd say. I think I probably did steal a few yards, but there was no white foam on the ground, so there was no stopping me. No, but it was one of those. I had a good idea, because obviously the angle in which I was facing the goals, the screen was behind me, so I could kind of see what time it was. I think it was it was still in 68 minutes, so there was still extra time or additional time coming up. But I knew it was an important kick. I think I said it before, I just focused on contact. The way in which I kick the ball is predominantly down to contact. I don't put too much power into it. Just try and get good contact, and the ball will fly because the balls are light enough. So that was the only thing I focused on. If I got good contact on it and put it wide, so be it. But if I dropped it short or didn't get it right, you know, as a free taker, that's the type of things that annoy you, you know.
Well, and do you know what? I don't know what it was about that free. So it felt like the ball actually hung that bit line. It took forever to come down, and it actually just dropped behind the goal.
That's right. And I think it was actually Aidan O'Shea was on the goal line. Obviously, he's a big lad. When the ball was through there, thinking he's going to catch it, so it just went over now. So luckily now it went over, but I got a few after the replay. I got a few messages saying, "Why did you put it over? We could have had dignity losing the first game."
Well, no, and again, I know I'm harping back to other interviews I've done with other lads, but I said it to Diarmuid that I've heard that as well. Like, we were well off, but like, I think it nearly would have stung more to lose by a point.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, the replay is awful and that, but like, you know, like losing by a point, sometimes it feels far worse. You're saying, the ifs, buts and maybes,
Yeah.
whereas the next day you can't really have any excuse.
Exactly, because the first day we were on a parish when maybe we might have deserved to win it.
Yeah.
The second day there was absolutely, there was no question about who the better team was. So I suppose that kind of, if it makes it easy losing to Mayo, it probably doesn't, but it still makes it that bit easier.
Yeah, and another Connacht title in 2019 then under Anthony, in Salt Hill as well. So like, I suppose for your team, you kind of broke that duck of winning in Galway, but you got a couple of wins in Mayo as well in Castlebar. That hadn't been done for 30, 40 years.
They're probably the ones that stick out, the ones over Mayo, because I remember going to loads of games when I was young. I remember going to the 2009 game. Tough place to be. I made my starting debut over Mayo, and I was taught a lesson by Tom Vaughan, I think it is, from Castlebar. Like, they're the type of things I remember as a player and a young lad. So in McHale Park, there were tough nights have been, tough days have been. So winning there, I'd say if you were asking a lot of the lads, they would say probably the games in McHale Park were a bit sweeter. And definitely for supporters. There's always that thing with Mayo and Roscommon. Galway not as much, but definitely Mayo and Roscommon.
Yeah, I can definitely vouch for that. I think 2019 is probably, I think that 2019 was probably the best win. I don't know, is it yours now? But for me as a supporter now, I think just because whatever was 30 years in Castlebar, I think they had just won the league. And I know it was similar enough.
Yeah,
in 2023, it was a similar thing. But I think 2019, just maybe the dramatic nature of Finton's win, lashing rain a Saturday night, it kind of just adds to it.
100%, I think it was. And didn't they have a free? Did Kevin McLaughlin have a free?
And he probably won.
He probably should have lived it, So that just adds to the drama and the excitement. The rain as well. It was a nighttime fixture, I think. Did we get 2 goals? Cahill and Ulton, maybe. We got a couple of goals the first half. So all that sort of thing does play into it. I suppose the same couple of years ago, but because it was the first time we did it in such a long time. They're very special days. No doubt.
And looking ahead, obviously you're away from the panel now. It'll probably be strange. New management in. Mark Dowd is in. He has John Rogers. He's Ian Daly. Jason Sherlock's with them as well. So it's an in-house appointment this time, and the likes of Mark, John, and Ian, they'll know Roscommon football inside out. Just your own thoughts on that appointment.
No brainer. I think getting the Roscommon man, I think that had to be done. I think I think we've a bit of a habit maybe in Roscommon that we always think that the person from the outside is always the right appointment. I think you see all the top teams, they've all in-house appointments, or the majority of them anyway. And Dowdy was the outstanding candidate, for what he's done with Balladreen, Strokes down, the minors, the 21s. He has built up his CV. He knows every player inside out. Same with the 2 lads as well. So, I think it's really exciting. I think, no matter if things go well, if things don't go well, we'll always give Dowdy and we'll always give the lads that leave it because they're one of us. They're ours. They're Roscommon men. So I think that's really, really important. He gets us.
And I think there will be that, especially at the start, because now Burgess and Strokestown are in the All-Ireland series. Naturally enough, probably those first couple of league games, there will be that transition period. Yourself, Kieran and Niall Daly aren't there. Not sure who else may or not be coming back. So there will be that bit of transition period. But again, it gives, a new lad a chance to put their hand up and stake a claim for a spot in Killarney. What better way to start? We want to be playing Division 1.
100%, and it's just a case of next man up. If you get injured, it's next man up, and it can't be a case of, we're missing X, Y, and Z. Like, they're not there for a reason, and I know I said it already about, 2016 we had our full panel. That's probably one of the biggest things that we struggled with over the years. We've never had our full team. Well, I think it's time now we probably stop making the excuse that we're missing whoever we're missing and just get on with it and throw in who you have to throw in down at Killarney. Sure, how else are you going to find out if they're good enough? The result in Killarney isn't the be-all and end-all, but finding out if a fella is good enough for maybe 10, 15 minutes in a crunch game in McHale Park or Pearse Stadium down the line, that could make all the difference. Absolutely. And you won't know how good he is until you throw him in. So, it's massively exciting. Division 1 games, they'll probably all be televised. They'll, they'll bring a bit of circus around as well with all that sort of thing. So it's huge, and there'll be massive learnings for a lot of the young fellas, which would be great.
Absolutely. Look, before we finish, I just want to touch briefly on Boyle. like, you know, maybe a strange year again for yourselves. I'm on about Roscommon close games, like that game against Pierce's. Like, I'm sure there's Reece regret there. You know, like he had the game pretty much under control for 50 odd minutes.
Yeah, look, I think, I to be honest with you, a lot of what I did in that game probably contributed to the fact that we're sitting here, we're not, you know, celebrating a county title, or we didn't get to a final, because we were complete control. Then obviously I got a black card, and then the last minute as well, I just take the wrong option, which is something now that I've to live with now for the last couple of months. So yeah, very disappointing. I think, you know, in fairness to Pierce's, in fairness to them, they don't know how to be beaten. They never do. You could be 10 up on them and they still come back. You know, that's the way they are. And I think that probably comes from winning in 2019 and 2021 and even last year as well. So yeah, fair play to them. They had a sniff of an opportunity and they took it. So yeah, look, from our perspective, massively disappointing, but I suppose there is some solace, and we know we're at that level. We know we're thereabouts.
Yeah.
It's not a case that Pierce has hammered us and, you know, us realise, okay, maybe we have a few years to go. I think all the boy lads believe. I think that's why Fergie is back in with us. I think he believes as well. There definitely is an opportunity there for us. So, yeah, huge regrets. But look, that's sport. There's always another day.
I know when you're on about maybe the couple of incidents you had, like, would you be harsh on yourself? I know everyone is harsh on themselves, but would you be in the weeks after that still be thinking about that?
Yeah, if you've ever sat around their dinner table now, you'd know what harsh is.
Harsh house, is it?
You definitely know what harsh is. Yeah, of course. You know, I'm one of the senior players. You know, I expect more from myself. My teammates expect more from me. So of course you have to have self-reflection.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I did, but I watched it back and it was just, you know, just disappointing, poor. You know, and that's, you know, the word for it. But yeah, we'll move on and we go again.
Yeah, and I think you've answered what I was going to ask. I know you're living in Dublin, and there's always talk maybe you might move up here and play here. Do you want to put those rumours to bed? You're staying put?
Oh, of course, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm Boyle man through and through. So as long as I'm in some way decent shape, I'll always be talking out for the town. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
And to finish off with, I know Keane's still under 20 manager. I know Enda's still involved with the county team. So you'll be playing more of the supporter role now next year for Roscommon. Again, I started on it. It must feel a bit strange, but I think you were saying off air, do you know what, coming into December now, not having those fitness tests, the trainings and the dark evenings, is it all that bad?
No, it's not at the minute. I think they had a fitness test a couple of weeks ago. I think I was opening a bottle of beer at the time, so I was happy enough with that. But no, look, it will be completely different. You know, obviously, if they want, I'll obviously give them support in terms of watching matches and all that type of thing. I'll obviously be going to a lot of the games too. But yeah, looking forward to it. You know, I think I was very lucky. I didn't have major injuries, a few niggles throughout my career, but everyone gets that. But I was very lucky. I loved playing for Roscommon. I don't think anybody loved playing for Roscommon as much as me. I absolutely loved it. But yeah, there's always a time, and look, obviously small family up above here as well. So yeah, time moves on as well.
Well, look, thanks for the last, 12, 13 years with the senior team and beyond, and the very best of luck with Boyle next year. You'll be staying put anyway. We can put that out there. Turn it going north. Donie, thanks very much.
Thanks, really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Rossie Podcast. Remember, you can find more on any of our podcasts on our Spotify, Apple Podcasts and YouTube channel. And also thanks to Sean White Renault Athlone, our sponsor this week. Explore Renault's electric lineup, including the award-winning Renault 5 E-Tech, plus the Scenic and Megane E-Tech models. See SeanWhiteCarsales.ie or call 090 64 92 887.